Hello and welcome to Earth Flower Farm's YouTube channel. Today I wanted to bring you guys along as I rehab the strawberry patch. It's been a couple years, actually more than a couple years. It's been about 5 years since I planted strawberries here in the food forest, along with all the trees. I had originally dug up the sod, flipped it over, did a double dig bed where you take the sod, you flip it over on the grass onto itself, and plant directly into that. I used a lot of mulch and ordered some bare root strawberries from Stark Brothers and got some fantastic June bearing varieties. And after a couple of years, you know, they kind of start to run away and send runners places you don't want them. But in a food forest, it's all fair game. They can go wherever they want, but I always try to keep a good productive space here in between the trees, under the canopy, where they can grow, be fenced off from the dogs. So after I bring out the compost, kind of get it prepared and ready to go, I'm gonna grab this little tool. It's a broken little hand hoe or whatever you call it. I'm going to just start taking out some of this creeping Charlie. It's the biggest weed that I have in the food forest, and it's not a terrible weed. It's great for the bees, so it doesn't bother me too much, but it does compete with the strawberries, so I've got to keep it under control. Every year I kind of try to take out what I can, but I noticed this spring that the strawberries weren't looking very good. They were kind of small. I think that the creeping Charlie has been competing with them a little too much, so luckily it's a pretty easy weed to remove. As you can see, I'm just, pulling up these runners with roots out of the ground. They kind of just stay at the top layer. They're a very surface root type of weed, so it's easy to get rid of them. As I'm doing that though, I'm finding lots of strawberries, little strawberries that are coming up with them, so I'm just going to plant them wherever we need them. Since it's a little patchy, this patch definitely needs some love. I get some of the grass out. That's got deeper roots. The grass is quite a bit more stubborn, but if you get it all in the early spring, it'll be easier, better than trying to deal with it in the summer once roots establish and really kind of like hang on, anchor into the ground. It's just, you gotta take a day. It takes a day to just do it, but you gotta do it and your strawberries will be happy. All these varieties are June-bearing strawberry varieties, so every single one of these strawberries is going to produce a crop through the month of June, and then no more strawberries for the rest of the year. And there are other varieties, but I prefer the June-bearing varieties because I can just pick and freeze strawberries in June and then not have to worry about picking them or defending them against the birds all year long. So I'm just taking some of the grass out that's creeping in from the lawn, the creeping Charlie that kind of ties it all together. I'm making sure that I leave anything that's desirable. I've got not just strawberries growing here, but a couple other varieties of herbs like rampions, bear's garlic, I think that's also called. So I like to keep that stuff growing. I'll also leave the blackberries that are growing, comfrey, that just kind of established itself here. And I've got an escaped chicken. They're here in this little chicken tractor, so I'm just going to put her back real quick. And keep working. It's, not a fun job, but, you got to do it. After about an hour, I finally got all the weeds, or as much weeds as I could, out, and it's looking pretty good. Seeing a lot of the dirt, I'm seeing a lot of the strawberries and the comfrey and the things that I want to actually cultivate, and a lot of that creeping Charlie is gone. So it's time for the next step, and the next step is going to be reaching for our bag of mushroom compost and starting to spread it all out. So I'm just going to take a couple shovelfuls and toss it out. The bag's a little heavy for me, so this will make it a little lighter, and then I can pick the bag up and just sprinkle it liberally over the garden. This will give a little bit of extra nutrition for the strawberries to recover from this abuse, because, you know, it's rough on the strawberries. Even though I'm dealing with weeds, I'm still yanking on some of the strawberries' roots, which I don't like to do, but, you know, you've got to do it every once in a while. As the human part of the permaculture system, you are the cultivator. You've got to, you know, make things happen, pick out the species you want and the ones you don't want, and, you know, make sense of it all, or else it'll just all run wild. It's looking better already. Lots of compost. 2 bags was a sufficient amount for this, and I'm going to water it in just to make sure that I can wash off any of the leaves of the strawberries or other plants like this comfrey that may have been covered in compost. I want to keep it all cleaned off and let that compost work its way into the soil, to the roots where it's mostly needed. It'll also help prepare the ground for the mulch, which is going to be the next step. Alright, so I just picked up a couple bags of Cypress Blend mulch from the hardware store. Normally I like to get wood chips delivered, but this project doesn't really need a truckload of wood chips, and I've got a truckload of wood chips coming a little bit later this year. So I'm just shaking the bag over the strawberries. It's very hard to go around the strawberries, so my hopes are that once I water it all in, the strawberries will start to show themselves, and then I'll go in and start to pull out any covered leaves that I notice. It took about 4 bags to do this whole area, so I'm not doing a huge layer of mulch. I'm not, you know, burying the leaves or the plants in mulch. I'm just sprinkling it over the top to protect the soil. You don't want to leave bare soil, or else that just begs weeds to move in. This will also keep the grass from creeping in from the lawn. Just use a rake and, you know, rake it all in. You can see the strawberries are much happier than they were before. I've got some ramps that I'm just kind of fixing. They're an endangered plant due to overforaging, so I made sure I planted some in the food forest. Now these guys will take about a month to recover, and hopefully they'll still reward us with some strawberries that'll be easier to pick thanks to the mulch. These are my comfrey plants. They're very durable, but they're really nutritious. They help the food forest, they help the fruit trees, the chickens love to eat it, and their roots are really deep, so you get a lot of minerals from the bedrock deep beneath the soil coming up to the surface when you chop and drop it. So looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with where we're at. It rained a bit, so luckily the rain was able to wash the wood chips off of the strawberry leaves and kind of let them come up and show themselves. Now this is a much more cultivated ecology. I like this a lot more over just leaving it be and letting the creeping Charlie really take over. Thank you guys so much for coming along and rehabbing the strawberry patch with me. I'll keep you guys posted in June when we're picking strawberries. We'll see if all our hard work paid off. If you like this video, please subscribe, like, and I put a video out every week, so there'll be a lot of urban homesteading content on here. Bless you guys, and I'll see you next time.